Hey, welcome back to Scrap Cooking. I'm Harriet Clooney. We're here in the Urban Element kitchen, and I'm going to show you today what to do with the stems of your tarragon. This is how I like to keep my tarragon. If you get it from the grocery store and it has an elastic around it, I like to remove the elastic because it bruises the leaves and cuts off any water that it wants to drink to stay nice and fresh. So I take the elastic off and then I'll put it in something narrow and tall, like this deli container, which if you have some lying around from when you've gone to the deli and cleaned them, you can reuse them. And then I just sort of, I do tiny little bit of water in there, just a psh, that's it. No more, not a psh, just a psh. So, and then you can just fold them over. It's not gonna hurt them. You don't wanna break them because you want them to sort of be drinking the water all the way up the stem. So then you put a lid on it and then you can keep it in the fridge. And it should keep fresh depending on how fresh they were when you got them. It should stay fresh for a couple days, up to a week, sometimes longer depending. It does help if you change the water every now and then. But yeah, so then they're nice and ready to go. And we'll pull them out. Then we've got these beautiful tarragon from the garden here. Shh, don't tell them. And then I find tarragon quite easy. You just pull them down, take the leaves off, and this top little part of the stem is edible. It's not as stick-like as the rest of it, or flimsy. And then you can use your tarragon however you like. I love tarragon in a salad. And I love tarragon. It's very classic in French cuisine, in hollandaise, which would then make it a béarnaise. It has a lovely sort of anise flavor. So for those of you who don't like licorice, tarragon's not for you. But for those of us who love black licorice, such as myself, it's one of my favorite herbs. It has this I find it has like an elegance to it, a refinedness to it that some herbs don't. Some other herbs are sort of like a punch in the face in a good way. But tarragon I find is very elegant and almost velvety. Like I love the texture of the leaves, but you can leave them whole, you can throw them, you can finish off anything, put them in a little slaw, it's just a lovely herb. It's really classic to do it with fish. It's just lovely. It's nice with chicken, and it's just a really wonderful herb. So you can chop them up pretty easily. They do not last very long when they are cut. And they bruise very easily. So they're also a very delicate herb. So when you're using tarragon, I suggest only using what you need and using it that day when it comes to the leaves. Otherwise, keep them in their container until you need to use them again. But yeah, so there we've got our lovely tarragon that I would throw into just at the end of anything you're cooking. It's lovely in a pasta, especially like a creamy pasta. It's really lovely. Yeah, so that's our leaves. Just gonna back of my knife here so as to not ruin the edge of the knife. But now we're left with these stems. And like I said, they're quite stick-like. You can break them. If you were to cut them up small, they're still like, if they were really young, they would be fine to chop up really small and throw into something. But the older they get and the later in the season, the woodier they get, and they're not really good for chopping up and throwing into something. However, they do have lots of flavor still left in them, and we don't like to throw out flavor. So what I like to do is break them if they're, these, like I said, these ones are quite fresh, so they're breakable. They may not be, but you can just chop them if they are more woody. But really, we are going to heat up. We're just gonna put them in a little bowl, and we're gonna take some kind of vinegar. I like to use white wine vinegar or even cider vinegar, something a little less abrasive than white vinegar. Rice wine vinegar would be really lovely. It's gonna go a little bit nicer with the flavor of the tarragon. You can use white vinegar too, no problem. That's what you got, use it. But if you have options in your household, that's my preferred one is white wine vinegar. But if you're not doing white wine vinegar, then cider vinegar works well. So we're just gonna put in a pot, maybe like a cup of vinegar. And we're just gonna turn this guy on up too high on a gas stove. And you can do it on high on an electric stove, but I would probably recommend just doing it on medium high. And then we're just bringing it to a boil. We're gonna add 1 chef pinch of salt. And then we're just gonna pour it over top of our stems and let it hang out. So we'll just hang around and wait for that to happen. All right, so now our vinegar is boiling. If you live in an apartment that has a fan, you'll want to turn it on because it gets quite fragrant vinegar up your nose. If you live in my apartment, you open the window because I don't have a fan. But now that it's boiling, we're just gonna turn that off, but then we're careful because it gets spitty. We're just gonna pour it over top. Of the tarragon stems, and we're just gonna let that cool down, and that's all you need to do. Once it's nice and cooled down all the way, then I'm gonna strain it and put it in a little container in the fridge. And then I have one really lovely flavored vinegar to use in a dressing. And I mean, if you've ever gone to a specialty shop that sells tarragon vinegar, you will see how expensive it is, but how easy it is to make yourself. So, but it's a really lovely vinegar that you can use really nice in salad dressings. If you are gonna make a béarnaise with the leaves of the tarragon for your Benny at home, you could use the tarragon vinegar, which just add in the sauce, would give an extra layer of tarragon flavor to it. But it's one of my favorite things to do because it's just so easy, but you get so much flavor out of it. So we're gonna pretend that's cold, and then I just take a little strainer. I mean, they're pieces of stick, so they're not too hard. If you don't have a strainer at home, you could fish them out with some tongs or a fork or something, and then pour them in a container. And I would also label it so that you remember why there's a weird thing of vinegar in your fridge. But yeah, so we want to make sure that it's cooled down all the way before we put it in the fridge with a lid on, so that it doesn't change the temperature of your fridge. But yeah, so that's how we make a beautiful flavored tarragon vinegar. So thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so we can show you more cool stuff about how to use all your waste and use all the things you've already got in your kitchen. Thanks again. Bye.